It took prison to help get my gambling addiction under control. Here is my story. For the last 8 years, I have struggled with a serious gambling addiction. It started when I was just 19 and at university. I was excited about starting a new chapter in my life, studying sports and exercise science to become a teacher. Shortly after starting uni, I made the unfortunate decision to go to a casino one night with friends. At that time, it was just a social thing, and I couldn't have predicted what would happen next. I can still picture that first time in the casino, flashing lights, pound signs everywhere, and the excitement of winning some money. Sadly, I did win, and without knowing it, I'd started to fall into a dark and dangerous trap. It seemed like such an easy way to make money, and as a student, some easy money felt too good to be true, and it was. Several months later, I joined multiple sports betting sites, betting on various sports every day, throwing away my student loan, lying to my parents, and eventually dropping out of university. Luckily, my family supported me, and I was given a second chance by the university to complete my degree. I was confident that I had put gambling behind me. During the summer holidays, I started speaking to a girl online who lived just down the road from the university and was due to start there after the summer holidays. She was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. I remember staring at her profile photos, thinking she couldn't possibly be real, that someone like me wouldn't get to be with someone like her. When I eventually met her, it was love at first sight, the first and last time I'd ever felt like that. I started imagining a future with her, kids and all. But it wasn't long before I was gambling again, even though I was the happiest guy ever with this amazing girl. Instead of spending time with her, I'd spend more and more time in the toilet on my phone gambling. I started to become more and more miserable around her, always wanting to drink after the stress of a big loss, cheating on her, and telling constant lies, all because of my gambling. My behavior eventually ruined her. I turned her into someone with no trust whatsoever, to the point where even my parents disliked her, but this was only because of who I had made her. She was unrecognizable from the girl I first met and fell for. At 21, I broke up with my girlfriend and left university again, but somehow managed to get a job as a teaching assistant. I was really excited about this opportunity and kept telling myself how lucky I was that I could give up gambling before I got in too deep. Less than a year later, I started focusing on gambling again. If I lost, I got depressed and just wanted to stay in bed rather than go to work. No employer would put up with that, so I was sacked. I was still lying to my parents about my work, and I even used money from my grandmother's will to gamble. I'll never forget coming home one day with my mom screaming at me to stop gambling, crying her eyes out. You'd think that would be enough to make me stop, wouldn't you? But I just kept getting one chance after another. I managed to find a job as a supervisor in a souvenir shop. It wasn't the best job, but I was relatively happy. The money was okay, and I got on well with my colleagues. I also reconnected with some old school friends I had lost contact with. So life was relatively good at this point. But I was still gambling, and it was getting worse. I'd get paid in cash every Saturday and immediately deposit my wages into the bank on my lunch break, then transfer it to my sports betting account. I'd be in the stockroom, hiding behind cardboard boxes, following the events I had bet on. Most of the time, I would have lost all my wages before my shift was even over. I used to go from being happy and excited to suddenly feeling sick. I would punch the boxes in the stockroom to release my anger. It was that or cry. So, what happened next? Well, today, I'm writing my story from a prison cell. I've received an 8-month sentence for fraud. I'd been given so many second chances, and I blew them all. But after I was arrested and charged, I knew I wasn't going to get out of this one. I couldn't bear the thought of going to prison, and every night I'd go to bed crying and mentally writing my last letter to my family. I googled ways to commit suicide multiple times, but the thing that stopped me was the hurt it would cause my family. I knew I couldn't do it, couldn't be that selfish. But back to my cell. I'm about to start yet another job, a prison job this time, another opportunity to turn my life around. I've been in prison for about a month now, and I'm the happiest, most confident, and positive person in the world. I've been helped by an amazing book I took out of the prison library about overcoming gambling addiction, as well as a course I've been doing since being here. I'm writing this today because, for the first time, I believe I am no longer addicted. Of course, it will be harder on the outside, but I believe that thanks to prison, I'll be able to beat it. Prison is the best thing that's happened to me. It saved my life and my family, and I can't wait to prove this to anyone who doubts me. I'm looking forward to the future. I'm dreaming and believing again. I believe I will have a dream job, maybe as a support worker. I believe I will find that one amazing woman with whom I can have children. I have a wonderful family, and I know not everyone is as lucky as I am, so I hope my story will help others before it's too late. I was told by the police officer who arrested me that my gambling addiction was one of the worst she'd seen, so if I can beat this, then I promise you, anybody can. Let me tell you how I balanced fire and cherished every moment. A widower's journey. When I was around 18, My dad sat my brother and me down and told us that someday we might inherit something and that we needed to know how to manage money. He told us he didn't care which brokerage we used, but we needed to research and pick one, and be mindful of fees, not pay $7 to invest $100, and open an account. Now, I put $1,000 in a Schwab account from my summer job and made sure that even if it was $20 a week, I never stopped contributing and investing. I wanted to show my dad that I didn't care if I inherited anything, I would be able to provide for my family on my own, and any inheritance would only ever be a bonus. I remember hitting $10,000 and couldn't believe that some days I made $100 just by having my money put away. I went to school on a scholarship, and my first salary after graduation was $45,000 when I got my foot in the door as a business analyst at a cybersecurity company. Within 18 months, I was making around $80,000 at the same company. I worked hard to demonstrate my value and negotiated based on what I felt my fair value was. After one significant raise or bonus, I bought my girlfriend, and future wife, a $500 necklace that she wore every day. Other than that, those raises mostly just increased my savings. I lived like I made $45,000 for 2 years, then lived like I made closer to $60,000 for another few years, the difference mainly in rent, as we moved into a nicer place, even though I was approaching $100,000 at that point. I was so in love with my soon-to-be wife. She made about $65,000 but hated the job she had for about 2 years. She had an opportunity to do something she loved but would drop her to around $43,000. I told her to take it. I had more money now and had room for extra expenses. She loved that job. I picked up most of the bills just so she could invest more of her money and see the value in doing it. I wanted her to see bigger numbers in her personal account than if we split bills more evenly. We were going to buy a house someday. She passed away at 26 after a year-long battle with leukemia. Our savings allowed us to weather the storm of her treatment. At one point, I paid $140 a day to live at a residence inn for about a month while we pursued a clinical trial. After she passed, I was able to buy a home. I will note we had great insurance that capped out-of-pocket expenses. A joke was we hit the max OOP on January 1st as she was in the hospital at that time. Not many in their late 20s can handle those expenses and still put a down payment on a home the next year. I was extremely grateful for that. But still, the house was empty. Could we have traveled more? Could we have had more expensive dates? Could I have bought her nicer gifts? Nicer furniture? Probably. And then I remember the best thing we ever did, something that totally went against any sort of financial goals we had. We got a Great Dane named Dale, as she always had a dream that we would get one. Do you have any idea how much it costs to feed a 190-pound dog? How much more expensive his vet appointments were? It cost $1,500 just to neuter him. And then I remember how much we valued the quality time we had together, going to the grocery store and cooking together. I love to cook and would make her one fancy dinner a week. Otherwise, we ate relatively simple. She made me the worst sloppy joes anyone has ever eaten, and we joked about it for years. Sitting at our cheap dining room table and hearing about all the fun stuff she had going on at work that week and talking through what we might name our dog are some of the best experiences we shared together. So when I think about the travel, the expensive dates, the gifts I could have bought her, who cares? She didn't care about that, and neither did I. But boy, did she love Dale and her job, the two biggest decisions we made that went entirely against any sort of fire goals we may have had. My advice is to figure out what you value and spend some of your money on it. Within reason, get that emergency fund right. Better yet, figure out what will make the people you love happy and do it. Don't do all of the things, but find that thing that matters and do it. Do not wait. Nobody is owed tomorrow. As for me, my income has increased significantly. I am married and expecting a son in a couple of months. My mortgage is about 10% of my take-home pay. We love our house. Even if I could get a better one, why would I? I still prefer a simple home-cooked meal, knowing I save money by not eating out, even though I could afford it more if I wanted. I don't buy fancy clothes. Those habits have grown my net worth considerably. But I love fishing. If I walk into a Cabela's, I am walking out with $60 to $80 worth of lures. Don't care. If I walk in to buy dog food, I am probably walking out with a toy so I can see my dogs light up when I get home. But my favorite thing we spent on lately is something for my wife. My wife sewed and found a fabric she absolutely adored for the nursery. It is pretty expensive, and she felt guilty for even eyeing it for the past couple of months. It cost over $400 for the fabric alone. I am not sure what she will need to spend to get the other materials and complete the project. I do not care. I told her multiple times just to get it, but she has dragged her feet because she felt it goes against our long-term goals. Last week, I finally got more serious about it and basically said, "This is something that matters to you. This is the reason we work hard. Please buy the fabric." She finally pulled the trigger, and the fabric will show up tomorrow. I cannot wait to see my wife's look when she finally hangs those curtains. That is what I'm living for.